Ella, Juliet. First, I see light, bright orange flaring behind my eyelids. Sounds begin to emerge shortly thereafter, but the reveal is slow, muddy. I hear my own breath, then faint beeping, a metal shh, a rush of air, the sound of laughter. Footsteps, a voice that says, Ella. Just as I'm about to open my eyes, a flood of heat flushes through my body, burns through bone. It's violent, pervasive. It presses hard against my throat, choking me. Suddenly I'm numb. Ella, the voice says. Ella, listen. Any minute now. Anderson's familiar voice breaks through the haze of my mind. My fingers twitch against cotton sheets. I feel the insubstantial weight of a thin blanket covering the lower half of my body. The pinch and sting of needles, a roar of pain. I realize then that I cannot move my left hand. Someone clears their throat. This is twice now that the sedative hasn't worked the way it should, someone says. The voice is unfamiliar. With Evie gone, this whole place is going to hell. Evie made substantial changes to Ella's body, Anderson says, and I wonder who he's talking about. It's possible that something in her new physical makeup prevents the sedative from clearing as quickly as it should. A humorless laugh. Your friendship with Max has gotten you many things over the last couple of decades, but a medical degree is not one of them. It's only a theory. I think it might be I don't care to know your theories, the man says, cutting him off. What I want to know is why on earth you thought it'd be a good idea to injure our key subject when maintaining her physical and mental stability is crucial to... Ibrahim, be reasonable, Anderson interjects. After what happened last time, I just wanted to be sure that everything was working as it should. I was only testing her low. We all know about your fetish to torture, Paris, but the novelty of your singular, sick mind has worn off. We're out of time. We are not out of time, Anderson says, sounding remarkably calm. This is only a minor setback. Max was able to fix it right away. A minor setback, Ibrahim thunders. The girl lost consciousness. We're still at high risk for regression. The subject's supposed to be in stasis. I allowed you free reign of the girl once again because I honestly didn't think you'd be this stupid. Because I don't have time to babysit you. Because Tatiana, Santiago, and Ozzy and I all have our hands full trying to do both your job and Evie's in addition to our own. In addition to everything else. I was doing my job just fine, Anderson says, his voice like acid. No one asked you to step in. You're forgetting that you lost your job and your continent the moment Evie's daughter shot you in the head and claimed your leavings for herself. You let a teenage girl take your life, your livelihood, your children and your soldiers from right under your nose. You know as well as I do that she's not an ordinary teenage girl, Anderson says. She's Evie's daughter. You know what she's capable of. But she didn't, Ibrahim cries. Half the reason the girl was meant to live a life of isolation was so that she'd never know the full extent of her powers. She was meant only to metamorphose quietly, undetected while we waited for the right moment to establish ourselves as a movement. She was only entrusted to your care because of your decades-long friendship with Max, and because you were a scheming, conniving upstart who was willing to take whatever job you could in order to move up. That's funny, Anderson says, unamused. You used to like me for being a scheming, conniving upstart who was willing to take whatever job I got. I liked you, Ibrahim says, seething. When you got the job done, but in the last year you've been nothing but deadweight. We've given you ample opportunity to correct your mistakes, but you can't seem to get things right. You're lucky Max was able to fix her hand so quickly, but we still know nothing of her mental state. And I swear to you, Paris, if there are unanticipated, irreversible consequences for your action, I will challenge you before the committee." "You wouldn't dare." "You might have gotten away with this nonsense while Evie was still alive, but the rest of us know that the only reason you even made it this far was because of Evie's indulgence of Max, who continues to vouch for you for reasons unfathomable to the rest of us." "For reasons unfathomable to the rest of us," Anderson laughs. "You mean you can't remember why you kept me around all these years? Let me refresh your memory. As I recall, you liked me best when I was the only one willing to do the abject, immoral, and unsavory jobs that helped get this movement off the ground." A pause. "You've kept me around all these years, Ibrahim, because in exchange, I've kept the blood off your hands. Or have you forgotten? You once called me your savior." "I don't care if I once called you the prophet." Something shatters, metal and glass slamming hard into something else. "We can't continue to pay for your careless mistakes. We're at war right now. In the moment, we're barely holding off on our lead. If you can't understand the possible ramifications of even a minor setback at this critical hour, you don't deserve to stand among us." A sudden crash. A door slamming shut. Anderson sighs, long and slow. Somehow I can tell, even from the sound of his exhalation, that he's not angry. I'm surprised. He just seems tired. By degrees, the fingers of heat uncurl from around my throat. After a few more seconds of silence, my eyes flutter open. I stare up at the ceiling, my eyes adjusting to the intense burst of white light. I feel slightly immobilized, but I seem to be okay. "Juliet?" Anderson's voice is soft, far more gentle than I'd expected. I blink at the ceiling and then with some effort manage to move my neck. I lock eyes with him. He looks unlike himself. Unshaven, uncertain. "Yes, sir," I say, but my voice is rough, unused. "How are you feeling?" "I feel stiff, sir." He hits a button and my bed moves, readjusting me so that I'm sitting relatively upright. Blood rushes from my head to the extremities and I'm left slightly dizzy. I blink slowly, trying to recalibrate. Anderson turns off the machines attached to my body and I watch, fascinated. And then he straightens. He turns his back to me, faces a small, high window. It's too far up for me to see the view. He raises his arms and runs his hand through his hair with a sigh. "I need a drink," he says to the wall. Anderson nods to himself and walks out the adjoining door. At first, I'm surprised to be left alone, but when I hear muffled sounds of movement and the familiar thrill of glasses clinking, I'm no longer surprised. I'm confused. I realize then that I have no idea where I am. Now that the needles have been removed from my body, I can more easily move, and as I swivel around to take in the place, it dawns on me that I'm not in a medical wing, as I first suspected. This looks more like someone's bedroom, or maybe even a hotel room. Everything's extremely white, sterile. I'm in a big white bed with white sheets and a white comforter. Even the bed frame's made of a white blonde wood. Next to the various carts and now dead monitors, there's a single nightstand decorated with a single, simple lamp. There's a slim door standing ajar, and through a slant of light I think I spy what serves as a closet, though it appears to be empty. Adjacent to the door is a suitcase, closed but unzipped. There's a screen mounted on the wall directly opposite me, and underneath it, a bureau. One of the drawers isn't completely closed, and it piques my interest. It occurs to me that I'm not wearing any clothes. I'm wearing a hospital gown, but no real clothes. My eyes scan the room for my military uniform, and I come up short. There's nothing here. I remember then, in a moment of clarity, that I must have bled all over my clothes. I remember kneeling on the floor. I remember the growing puddle of my own blood in which I collapsed. I glanced down at my injured hand. I only injured my index finger, but my entire left hand is bound in gauze. The pain is reduced to a dull throb. I take that as a good sign. Gingerly, I begin to remove the bandages. Just then, Anderson reappears. His suit jacket's gone, his tie gone. The 2 top buttons of his shirt are undone, the black curl of ink more clearly visible, and his hair is disheveled. He seems more relaxed. He remains in the doorway and takes a long drink from a glass half full of amber liquid. When he makes eye contact with me, I say, "Sir, I was wondering where I am. I was also wondering where my clothes are." Anderson takes another sip. He closes his eyes and he swallows, leans back against the doorframe, sighs. "You're in my room," he says, his eyes still closed. "This compound is vast, and the medical wings, of which these are many, are for the most part situated on the opposite end of the facility about a mile away. After Max attended to your knees, I had him deposit you here so that I'd be able to keep a close eye on you through the night. As to your clothes, I have no idea." He takes another sip. "I think Max had them incinerated. I'm sure someone will bring you replacements soon." "Thank you, sir." Anderson says nothing. I say nothing more. With his eyes closed, I feel safer to stare at him. I take advantage of the rare opportunity to peer closer at his tattoo, but I still can't make any sense of it. Mostly I stare at his face, which I've never seen like this. Soft, relaxed, almost smiling. Even so, I can tell that something's troubling him. "What?" he says without looking at me. "What is it now?" "I was wondering, sir, if you're okay." His eyes open. He tilts his head to look at me, but his gaze is inscrutable. Slowly, he turns. He throws back the last of his drink, rests the glass on the nightstand, and sits down in a nearby armchair. "I had you cut off your own finger last night. Do you remember?" "Yes, sir." "And today you're asking me if I'm okay?" "Yes, sir. You seem upset, sir." He leans back in his chair, looking thoughtful. Suddenly, he shakes his head. "You know, I realize now that I've been too hard on you. I've put you through too much, tested your loyalty perhaps too much. But you and I have a long history, Juliet, and it's not easy for me to forgive. I certainly don't forget." I say nothing. "You have no idea how much I hated you," he says, speaking more to the wall than to me. "How much I still hate you sometimes, but now, finally." He sits up, looks me in the eye. "Now you're perfect." He laughs, but there's no heart in it. "Now you're absolutely perfect, and I have to just give you away. Toss your body to science." He turns toward the wall again. "What a shame." Fear creeps up through my chest. I ignore it. Anderson stands, grabs the empty glass off the nightstand, and disappears for a minute to refill it. When he returns, he stares at me from the doorway. I stare back. We remain like that for a while before he says suddenly, "You know, when I was very young, I wanted to be a baker." Surprise shoots through me, widens my eyes. "I know," he says, taking another swallow of the amber liquid. He almost laughs. "Not what you'd expect, but I've always had a fondness for cake. Few people realize this, but baking requires infinite precision and patience. It's an exacting, cruel science. I would have been an excellent baker." And then, "I'm not really sure why I'm telling you this. I suppose it's Been a long time since I felt I could speak openly with anyone. You can tell me anything, sir. Yes, he says quietly. I'm beginning to believe that. We're both silent then, but I can't stop staring at him, my mind suddenly overrun with unanswerable questions. Another 20 seconds of this, and he finally breaks the silence. All right, what is it? His voice is dry, self-mocking. What is it you're dying to know? I'm sorry, sir, I say. I was just wondering, why didn't you try to be a baker? Anderson shrugs, spins the glass around in his hands. When I got a bit older, my mother used to force bleach down my throat, ammonia, whatever she could find under the sink. It was never enough to kill me, he says, meeting my eyes. Just enough to torture me for all of eternity. He throws back the rest of his drink. You might say that I lost my appetite. I can't mask my horror quickly enough. Anderson laughs at me, laughs at the look on my face. She never even had a good reason for doing it, he says, turning away. She just hated me. Sir, I say. Sir, Max barges into the room. I flinch. What the hell did you do? There are so many possible answers to that question, Anderson says, glancing back. Please be more specific. By the way, what did you do with her clothes? I'm talking about Kent, Max says angrily. What did you do? Anderson looks suddenly uncertain. He glances from Max to me and then back again. Perhaps we should discuss this elsewhere. But Max looks beyond reason. His eyes are so wild I can't tell if he's angry or terrified. Please, tell me the tapes were tampered with. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me you didn't perform the procedure on yourself. Anderson looks at once relieved and irritated. Calm yourself, he says. I watched Evie do this kind of thing countless times, and the last time on me. The boy had already been drained. The vial was ready, just sitting there on the counter, and you were so busy with... He glances at me. Anyway, I had a while to wait, and I figured I'd make myself useful while I stood around. I can't believe... Of course you don't see the problem, Max says, grabbing a fistful of his own hair. He's shaking his head. You never see the problem. That seems an unfair accusation. Paris, there's a reason why most unnaturals only have one ability. He's beginning to pace now. The occurrence of two supernatural gifts in the same person is exceedingly rare. What about Ibrahim's girl? He says. Wasn't that your work? Evie's? No, Max says forcefully. That was a random natural error. We were just as surprised by the discovery as anyone else. Anderson goes suddenly solid with tension. What exactly is the problem? It's not... A sudden blare of sirens, and the words die in Max's throat. Not again, he whispers. God, not again. Anderson spares me a single glance before he disappears into his room, and this time he reappears fully assembled. Not a hair out of place. He checks the cartridge of a handgun before he tucks it away in a hidden holster. Juliet, he says sharply. Yes, sir. I am ordering you to remain here. No matter what you see, no matter what you hear, you are not to leave this room. You are to do nothing unless I command you otherwise. Do you understand? Yes, sir. Max, get her something to wear, Anderson barks. And then keep her hidden. Guard her with your life. Kenji. This was the plan. We were all supposed to go invisible, Warner borrowing his power from me and Nazira, and jump out of the plane just before it landed. Nazira would then activate her flying powers, and with Warner bolstering her power, the three of us would bypass the welcoming committee intent on murdering us. We'd then make our way directly into the heart of the vast compound, where we'd begin our search for Juliet. This is what actually happens. All three of us go invisible and jump out of the plane as it lands. That part worked. The thing we weren't expecting, of course, was for the welcoming, murdering committee to be so thoroughly anticipative of our moves. We're up in the air, flying over the heads of at least 24 highly armed soldiers and one dude who looks like he might be Nazira's dad, when someone flashes some kind of long-barreled gun up into the sky. He seems to be searching for something. Us. He's scanning for heat signatures, Warner says. I realize that, Nazira says, sounding frustrated. She picks up speed, but it doesn't matter. Seconds later, the guy with the heat gun shouts something to someone else who aims a different weapon at us, one that immediately disables our powers. It's just as horrifying as it sounds. I don't even have a chance to scream. I don't have time to think about the fact that my heart's racing a mile a minute, or that my hands are shaking, or that Nazira, fearless, invulnerable Nazira, looks suddenly terrified as the sky falls out from under her. Even Warner seems stunned. I was already super freaked out about the idea of being shot out of the sky again, but I can honestly say that I wasn't mentally prepared for this. This is a whole new level of terror. The three of us are now suddenly visible and spiraling to our deaths, and the soldiers below us are just staring at us, waiting. For what? I think. Why are they just staring at us as we die? Why go to all the trouble to take over our plane and land us here safely just to watch us fall out of the sky? Did they find this entertaining? Time feels strange, infinite and non-existent. Winds rushing up against my feet, and all I can see is the ground coming at us too fast. But I can't stop thinking about how, in all my nightmares, I never thought I'd die like this. I never thought I'd die because of gravity. I didn't think that this was the way I was destined to exit the world. And it seems wrong, and it seems unfair, and I'm thinking about how quickly we failed, how we never stood a chance, when I hear a sudden explosion. A flash of fire, discordant cries, the faraway sounds of Warner shouting, and then I'm no longer falling, no longer visible. It all happened so fast I feel dizzy. Nazira's arm is wrapped around me and she's hauling me upwards, struggling a bit, and then Warner materializes beside me, helping to prop me up. His sharp voice and familiar presence are my only proof of his existence. Nice shot, Nazira says, her breathless words loud in my ear. How long do you think we have? 10 seconds before it occurs to them to start shooting blindly at us, Warner calls out. We have to move out of range now. On it, Nazira shouts back. We narrowly avoid gunfire as the three of us plummet at a sharp diagonal to the ground. We were already so close to the ground that it didn't take us long to land in the middle of a field, far enough away from danger to be able to breathe a momentary sigh of relief, but too far from the compound for the relief to last long. I'm bent over, hands on my knees, gasping for breath, trying to calm down. What did you do? What the hell just happened? Warner threw a grenade, Nazira explains. Then to Warner, you found that in Hyder's bag, didn't you? That and a few other things. We need to move. I hear the sound of retreating footsteps, boots crushing grass, and I hurry to follow. They'll regroup quickly, Warner is saying. So we only have moments to come up with a new plan. I think we should split up. No, Nazira and I say at the same time. There's no time, Warner says. They know we're here, and they've obviously had ample opportunity to prepare for our arrival. Unfortunately, our parents aren't idiots. They know we're here to save Ella. Our presence has almost certainly inspired them to begin the transfer if they haven't done so already. The three of us together are inefficient, easy targets. But one of us has to stay with you, Nazira says. You need us within close proximity if you're going to use stealth to get around. I'll take my chances. No way, Nazira says flatly. Listen, I know this compound, so I'll be okay on my own. But Kenji doesn't know this place well enough. The entire footprint measures out to 120 acres of land, which means you can easily get lost if you don't know where to look. You two stick together. Kenji will lend you to stealth, and you can be his guide. I'll go alone. What? I say, panicked. No way. Warner's not wrong, Nazira says, cutting me off. The three of us as a group really do make for an easier target. There are too many variables. Besides, I have something I need to do, and the sooner I can get to a computer, the sooner things will go for both of us. It's probably best if I tackle on my own. Wait, what? What are you planning? Warner asks. I'm going to trick the systems into thinking that your family and Ella are linked, she says to Warner. There's protocol for this sort of thing already in place within the reestablishment, so if I can create the necessary profiles and authorizations, the database will recognize you as a member of the Sommers family. You'll be granted easy access to most of the high-security rooms throughout the compound. But it's not foolproof. The system does a self-scan for anomalies every hour. If it's able to see through my bullshit, you'll be locked out and reported. But until then, you'll be able to more easily search the building for Ella. Nazira, Warner says, sounding unusually impressed. That's great. Better than great, I add. That's amazing. Thanks, she says. But I should get going. The sooner I start flying, the sooner I can get started. Which hopefully means that by the time you reach base, I'll have made something happen. But what if you get caught? I ask. What if you can't do it? How will we find you? You won't. But, Nazira, we're at war, Kishimoto, she says, a slight smile in her voice. We don't have time to be sentimental. That's not funny. I hate that joke. I hate it so much. Nazira is going to be fine, Warner says. You obviously don't know her well if you think she's easily captured. She literally just woke up after being shot in the chest. She nearly died. That was a fluke, Warner and Nazira say at the same time. But, hey, Nazira says, her voice suddenly close. I have a feeling I'm about 4 months away from falling madly in love with you, so please don't get yourself killed, okay? I'm about to respond when I feel a sudden rush of air. I hear her launching up into the sky, and even though I know I won't see her, I crane my neck as if to watch her go. And just like that, she's gone. My heart's pounding in my chest, blood rushing to my head. I feel confused, terrified, excited, hopeful, horrified. All the best and worst things always seem to happen to me at the same time. It's not fair. Fucking hell, I say out loud. Come on, Warner says. Let's move out. Ella. Juliet. Max is staring at me like I'm an alien. He hasn't moved since Anderson left. He just stands there stiff and strange, rooted to the floor. I remember the look he gave me the first time we met, the unguarded hostility in his eyes, and I blink at him from my bed, wondering why he hates me so much. After an uncomfortable stretch of silence, I clear my throat. It's obvious that Anderson respects Max, likes him even, so I decide I should address him with a similar level of respect. Sir, I say, I'd really like to get dressed. Max startles at the sound of my voice. His body language is entirely different now that Anderson isn't here, and I'm still struggling to figure him out. He seems skittish. I wonder if I should feel threatened by him. His affection for Anderson's no indication that he might treat me like anything but a nameless soldier. A subordinate. Max sighs. It's a loud, rough sound that seems to shake him from his stupor. He shoots me a last long look before he disappears into the adjoining room, from where I hear indiscernible shuffling sounds. When he reappears, his arms are empty. He stares blankly at me, looking more rattled than he did a moment ago. He shoves a hand through his hair. It sticks up in places. "Anderson doesn't have anything that would fit you," he says. "No, sir," I say carefully, still confused. "I was hoping I might be given a replacement uniform." Max turns away, stares at nothing. "A replacement uniform," he says to himself. "Right." But when he takes in a long, shuddering breath, it becomes clear to me that he's trying to stay calm. Trying to stay calm. I realize suddenly that Max might be afraid of me. Maybe he saw what I did to Darius. Maybe he's the doctor who patched him up. Still, I don't see what reason he'd have to think I'd hurt him. After all, my Anders came from Anderson, and as far as I'm aware, Max is an ally. I watch him closely as he lifts his wrist to his mouth, quietly requesting that someone deliver a fresh set of clothes for me. And then he backs away from me until he's flush to the wall. There's a single, sharp thud as the heels of his boot hit the baseboards. And then silence. Silence. It erupts, settling completely into the room, the quiet reaching even the furthest corners. I feel physically trapped by it. The lack of sound feels oppressive, paralyzing. I pass the time by counting the bruises on my body. I don't think I've spent this much time looking at myself in the last few days. I hadn't realized how many wounds I had. There seems to be several fresh cuts on my arms and legs, and I feel a vague stinging along my lower abdomen. I pull back the collar of my hospital gown, peering through the overly large neck hole at my naked body underneath. Pale, bruised. There's a small, fresh scar running vertically down the side of my torso, and I don't know what I did to acquire it. In fact, my body seems to have amassed an entire constellation of fresh incisions and faded bruises. For some reason, I can't remember where they came from. I glance up suddenly when I feel the heat of Max's gaze. He's staring at me as I study myself, and the sharp look in his eyes makes me wary. I sit up, sit back. I don't feel comfortable asking him any of the questions piling in my mouth. So I look at my hands. I've already removed the rest of my bandages. My left hand's mostly healed. There's no visible scar where my finger was detached, but my skin is mottled up to my forearm, mostly purple and dark blue, a few spots of yellow. I curl my fingers into a fist, let it go. It only hurts a little. The pain is fading by the hour. The next words leave my lips before I can stop them. "Thank you, sir, for fixing my hand." Max stares at me, uncertain, when his wrist lights up. He glances down at the message and then at the door, and as he darts to the entrance, he tosses strange, wild looks at me over his shoulder, as if he's afraid to turn his back on me. Max grows more bizarre by the moment. When the door opens, the room's flooded with sound. Flashing lights pulse through the slice of open doorway, shouts and footsteps thuddering down the hall. I hear metal crashing into metal, the distant blare of an alarm. My heart picks up. I'm on my feet before I can even stop myself, my sharpened senses oblivious to the fact that my hospital gown does little to cover my body. All I know is a sudden, urgent need to join the commotion, to do what I can to assist, and to find my commander and protect him. It's what I was built to do. I can't just stand here. But then I remember that my commander gave me explicit orders to remain here, and the fight leaves my body. Max shuts the door, silencing the chaos with that single motion. I open my mouth to say something, but the look in his eyes warns me not to speak. He places a stack of clothes on the bed, refusing to even come near me, and steps out of the room. I change into the clothes quickly, shedding the loose gown for the starched, stiff fabric of a freshly washed military uniform. Max brought me no undergarments, but I don't bother pointing this out. I'm just relieved to have something to wear. I'm still buttoning the front placket, my fingers working as quickly as possible, when my gaze falls once more to the bureau directly opposite the bed. There's a single drawer left slightly open, as if it was closed in a hurry. I'd noticed it earlier. I can't stop staring at it now. Something pulls me forward, some need I can't explain. It's becoming familiar now, almost normal, to feel the strange heat filling my head, so I don't question my compulsion to move closer. Something, somewhere, inside of me, is screaming at me to stand down, but I'm only dimly aware of it. I hear Max's muffled, low voice in the other room. He's speaking with someone in harried, aggressive tones. He seems fully distracted. Encouraged, I step forward. My hand curls around the drawer, and it takes only a little effort to tug it open. It's a smooth, soft system. The wood makes almost no sound as it moves, and I'm just about to peer inside when... "What are you doing?" Max's voice sends a sharp note of clarity through my brain, clearing the haze. I take a step back, blinking, trying to understand what I was doing. "The drawer was open, sir. I was going to close it." The lie comes automatically, easily. I marvel at it. Max slams the drawer closed and stares suspiciously at my face. I blink at him, blithely meeting his gaze. I notice then that he's holding my boots. He shoves them at me. I take them. I want to ask him if he has a hair tie. My hair is unusually long. I have a vague memory of it being much shorter, but I decide against it. He watches me closely as I pull on my boots, and once I'm upright again, he barks at me to follow him. I don't move. "Sir, my commander gave me direct orders to remain in this room. I'll stay here until otherwise instructed." "You're currently being instructed. I'm instructing you." "With all due respect, sir, you're not my commanding officer." Max sighs, irritation darkening his features, and he lifts his wrist to his mouth. "Did you hear that? I told you she wouldn't listen to me." A pause. "Yes, you'll have to come get her yourself." Another pause. Max is listening on an invisible earpiece not unlike the one I've seen Anderson use. An earpiece I'm now realizing must be implanted into their brains. "Absolutely not," Max says. His anger so sudden it startles me. He shakes his head. "I'm not touching her." Another beat of silence, and... "I realize that," he says sharply. "But it's different when her eyes are open. There's something about her face. I don't like the way she looks at me." My heart slows. Blackness fills my vision, flickers back to light. I hear my heart beating, hear myself breathe in, breathe out, hear my own voice loud, so loud. There was something about my face. The words slur, slow down. There was something about my face, something about my face, something about my eyes, the way I looked at her. My eyes fly open with a start. I'm breathing hard, confused, and I hardly have a moment to reflect on what just happened in my head before the door flies open again. A roar of noise fills my ears. More sirens, more shouts, more sounds of urgent, chaotic movement. "Juliet Ferrars." There's a man in front of me. Tall, forbidding. Black hair, brown skin, green eyes. I can tell just by looking at him that he wields a great deal of power. "I am Supreme Commander Ibrahim." My eyes widen. Musa Ibrahim is the Supreme Commander of Asia. By all accounts, the Supreme Commanders of the Re-establishment have equal levels of authority, but Supreme Commander Ibrahim is widely known to be one of the founders of the movement, and one of the only Supreme Commanders to have held the position from the beginning. He's extremely well respected. So when he says, "Come with me," I say, "Yes, sir." I follow him out the door and into the chaos, but I don't have long to take in the pandemonium before we make a sharp turn into a dark hallway. I follow Ibrahim down a slim, narrow path, the lights dimming as we go. I glance back a few times to see if Max is still with us, but he seems to have gone in another direction. "This way," Ibrahim says sharply. We make one more turn, and suddenly the narrow path opens into a large, brightly lit landing area. There's an industrial stairwell to the left and a large, gleaming steel elevator to the right. Ibrahim heads for the elevator, and he places his hand flat against the seamless door. After a moment, the metal emits a quiet beep, hissing as it slides open. Once we're both inside, Ibrahim gives me a wide berth. I wait for him to direct the elevator. I scan the interior for buttons or a monitor of some kind, but he does nothing. A second later, without prompting, the elevator moves. The ride is so smooth it takes me a minute to realize we're moving sideways rather than up or down. I glance around, taking the opportunity to more closely examine the interior, and only then do I notice the rounded corners. I thought this unit was rectangular. It appears to be circular. I wonder, then, if we're moving as a bullet would, boring through the earth. I glance at Ibrahim. He says nothing, indicates nothing. He seems neither interested nor perturbed by my presence, which is new. He holds himself with a certainty that reminds me a great deal of Anderson, but there's something else about Ibrahim, something more that feels unique. Even from a passing glance, it's obvious that he feels absolutely sure about himself. I'm not sure even Anderson feels absolutely sure of himself. He's always testing and prodding, examining and questioning. Ibrahim, on the other hand, seems comfortable, unbothered, effortlessly confident. I wonder what that must feel like. And then I shock myself for wondering. Once the elevator stops, it makes 3 brief, harsh, buzzing sounds. A moment later, the doors open. I wait for Ibrahim to exit first, and then I follow. When I cross the threshold, I'm first stunned by the smell. The air quality is so poor that I can't even open my eyes properly. There's an acrid smell in the air, something reminiscent of sulfur, and I step through a cloud of smoke so thick it immediately makes my eyes burn. It's not long before I'm coughing, covering my face with my arm as I force my way through the room. I don't know how Ibrahim can stand this. Only after I've pushed through the cloud does the stinging smell begin to dissipate, but by then I've lost track of Ibrahim. I spin around trying to take in my surroundings, but there are no visual cues to route me. This laboratory doesn't seem much different from the others I've seen. A great deal of glass and steel, dozens of long, metal tables stretched across the room, all of them covered in beakers and test tubes and what look like massive microscopes. The one big difference here is that there are huge glass domes drilled into the walls, the smooth, transparent semicircles appearing more like portholes than anything else. As I get closer, I realize that they're planters of some kind, each one containing unusual vegetation I've never seen. Lights flicker on as I move through the vast space, but much of it's still shrouded in darkness, and I gasp suddenly when I walk straight into a glass wall. I take a step back, my eyes adjusting to the light. It's not a wall. It's an aquarium. An aquarium larger than I am. An aquarium the size of a wall. It's not the first water tank I've seen in a laboratory here in Oceania, and I'm beginning to wonder why there are so many of them. I take another step back, still trying to make sense of what I'm seeing. Dissatisfied, I step closer again. There's a dim, blue light in the tank, but it doesn't do much to illuminate the large dimensions. I crane my neck to see the top of it, but I lose my balance, catching myself against the glass at the last second. This is a futile effort. I need to find Ibrahim. Just as I'm about to step back, I notice a flash of movement in the tank. The water trembles within, begins to thrash. A hand slams hard against the glass. I gasp, slowly. The hand retreats. I stand there, frozen in fear and fascination when someone clamps down on my arm. This time, I almost scream. "Where have you been?" Ibrahim says angrily. I'm sorry, sir, I say quickly. I got lost. The smoke was so thick that I...
What are you talking about? What smoke?
The words die in my throat. I thought I saw smoke. Was there no smoke? Is this another test? Ibrahim sighs.
Come with me.
Yes, sir. This time I keep my eyes on Ibrahim at all times. And this time when we walk through the darkened laboratory into a blindingly bright circular room, I know I'm in the right place. Because something is wrong. Someone is dead. Kenji. When we finally make it to the compound, I'm exhausted, thirsty, and really have to use the bathroom. Warner's, none of those things apparently, because Warner's made of uranium or plutonium or some shit, so I have to beg him to let me take a quick break. And by begging him, I mean I grab him by the back of his shirt and force him to slow down, and then I basically collapse behind a wall. Warner shoves away from me, and the sound of his irritated exhalation is all I need to know that my break is half a second from over.
We don't take breaks, he says sharply. If you can't keep up, stay here.
Bro, I'm not asking for a stop. I'm not even asking for a real break. I just need a second to catch my breath. 2 seconds, maybe 5 seconds, that's not crazy. And just because I have to catch my breath doesn't mean I don't love Jay. It means we just ran like 1,000 miles. It means my lungs aren't made of steel.
2 miles, he says. We ran 2 miles.
In the sun, uphill. You're in a fucking suit. Do you even sweat? How are you not tired?
If by now you don't understand, I certainly can't teach you.
I haul myself to my feet. We start moving again. I'm not even sure I want to know what you're talking about, I say, lowering my voice as I reach for my gun. We're rounding the corner to the entrance where our big, fancy plan to break into the building involves waiting for someone to open the door and catching that door before it closes. No luck yet.
Hey,
I whisper.
What?
Warner sounds annoyed.
How'd you end up proposing?
Silence. Come on, bro, I'm curious. Also, I really have to pee, so if you don't distract me right now, all I'm going to think about is how much I have to pee.
You know, sometimes I wish I could remove the part of my brain that stores the things that you say to me.
I ignore that. So, how'd you do it? Someone comes through the door and I tense, ready to jump forward, but there's not enough time. My body relaxes back against the wall. Did you get the ring like I told you to?
No.
What do you mean, no? I hesitate. Did you at least, light a candle? Make her dinner?
No.
Buy her chocolates? Get down on one knee?
No.
No? No, you didn't even do one of those things? None of them? My whispers are turning into whisper yells. You didn't do a single thing I told you to do.
No.
Son of a bitch.
Why does it matter? He asks.
She said yes. I groan. You're the worst. You know that? The worst. You don't deserve her. Warner sighs.
I thought that was already obvious.
Hey, don't you dare make me feel sorry for you. I cut myself off when the door suddenly opens. A small group of doctors, scientists, I don't know, exits the building, and Warner and I jump to our feet and get into position. This group has just enough people, and they take just long enough exiting, that when I grab the door and hold it open for a few seconds longer, it doesn't seem to register. We're in. And we've only been inside for less than a second before Warner slams me into the wall, knocking the air from my lungs.
Don't move, he whispers. Not an inch.
Why not? I wheeze.
Look up, he says. But only with your eyes. Don't move your head. Do you see the cameras? No? They anticipated us, he says. They anticipated our moves. Look up again, but do it carefully. Those small black dots are cameras, sensors, infrared scanners, thermal images. They're searching for inconsistencies in the security footage. Shit. Yes. So, what do we do? I'm not sure, Warner says. You're not sure, I say, trying not to freak out. How can you not be sure? I'm thinking, he whispers, irritated. And I don't hear you contributing any ideas. Listen, bro, all I know is that I really, really need to... I'm interrupted by the distant sound of a toilet flushing. A moment later, a door swings open. I turn my head a millimeter and realize we're right next to the men's bathroom. Warner and I seize the moment, catching the door before it falls closed. Once inside the bathroom, we press up against the wall, our backs to the cold tile. I'm trying hard not to think about all the pee residue touching my body. When Warner exhales. It's a brief, quiet sound, but he sounds relieved. I'm guessing that means there are no scanners or cameras in this bathroom, but I can't be sure because Warner doesn't say a word, and it doesn't take a genius to figure out why. We're not sure if we're alone in here. I can't see him do it, but I'm pretty sure Warner's checking the stalls right now. It's what I'm doing anyway. This isn't a huge bathroom, as I'm sure it's one of many, and it's right by the entrance exit of the building, so right now it doesn't seem to be getting a lot of traffic. When we're both certain the room's clear, Warner says, We're going to go up through the vent. If you truly need to use the restroom, do it now. Okay, but why do you have to sound all disgusted by it? Do you really expect me to believe that you never have to use the bathroom? Are basic human needs below you? Warner ignores me. I see the stall door open, and I hear his careful sounds as he climbs the metal cubicles. There's a large vent in the ceiling just above one of the stalls, and I watch as his invisible hands make short work of the grate. Quickly, I use the bathroom, and then I wash my hands as loudly as possible just in case Warner feels the need to make a juvenile comment about my hygiene. Surprisingly, he doesn't. Instead, he says, Are you ready? And I can tell by the echoing sound of his voice that he's already halfway up the vent. I'm ready, just let me know when you're in. More careful movement, the metal drumming as he goes. I'm in, he says. Make sure you reattach the grate after you climb up. Got it. On a related note, I hope you're not claustrophobic. Though if you are, good luck. I take a deep breath, let it go, and we begin our journey into hell. Ella, Juliet. Max, Anderson, a blonde woman, and a tall black man are all standing in the center of the room, staring at a dead body, and they look up only when Ibrahim approaches. Anderson's eyes home in on me immediately. I feel my heart jump. I don't know how Max got here before we did, and I don't know if I'm about to be punished for obeying Supreme Commander Ibrahim. My mind spirals. What's she doing here? Anderson asks, his expression wild. I told her to stay in the... I overruled your orders, Ibrahim says sharply, and told her to come with me. My bedroom is one of the most secure locations on this wing, Anderson says, barely holding on to his anger. You've put us all at risk by moving her. We are currently under attack, Ibrahim says. You left her alone, completely unattended. I left her with Max. Max, who's too terrified of his own creation to spend even a few minutes alone with the girl. You forget there's a reason he was never granted a military position. Anderson shoots Max a strange, confused look. Somehow the confusion on Anderson's face makes me feel better about my own. I have no idea what's happening, no idea to whom I should answer.
No idea what Ibrahim meant by creation. Max just shakes his head. The children are here, Ibrahim says, changing the subject. They're here in our midst, completely undetected. They're going room by room searching for her, and they've already killed 4 of our key scientists in the process. He nods at the dead body. A graying, middle-aged man, blood pooling beneath him. How did this happen? Why haven't they been spotted yet? Nothing has registered on our cameras, Anderson says. Not yet, anyway. So you're telling me that this and the 3 other dead bodies we found so far was the work of ghosts? They must have found a way to trick the system, the woman says. It's the only possible answer. Yes, Tatiana, I realize that, but the question is how? Ibrahim pinches his nose between his thumb and index finger, and it's clear he's talking to Anderson when he says, all the preparations you claim to have made in anticipation of a possible assault, they were all for nothing? What did you expect? Anderson's no longer trying to control his anger. There are children. We bred them for this. I'd be disappointed if they were stupid enough to fall into our traps right away. Our children. Enough! Ibrahim cries. Enough of this. We need to initiate the transfer now. I already told you why we can't, Max says urgently. Not yet. We need more time. Imogen still needs to fall below 10% viability in order for the procedure to operate smoothly, and right now she's at 12%. Another few days, maybe a couple of weeks, and we should be able to move forward. But anything above 10% viability means there's a chance she'll still be strong enough to resist. I don't care, Ibrahim says. We've waited long enough, and we've wasted enough time and money trying to keep both her alive and her sister in our custody. We can't risk another failure. But initiating the transfer at 12% viability has a 38% chance of failure, Max says, speaking quickly. We could be risking a great deal. Then find more ways to reduce viability, Ibrahim snaps. We're already at the top end of what we can do right now, Max says. She's still too strong. She's fighting our efforts. That's only more reason to get rid of her sooner, Ibrahim says, cutting him off again. We're expending an egregious amount of resources just to keep the other kids isolated from her advances, when God only knows what damage she's already done. She's been meddling everywhere, causing needless disaster. We need a new host, a healthy one, and we need it now. Ibrahim, don't be rash, Anderson says, trying to sound calm. This could be a huge mistake. Juliet is a perfect soldier. She's more than proven herself, and right now she could be a huge help. Instead of locking her away, we should be sending her out, giving her a mission. Absolutely not. Ibrahim, he makes a good point, the tall black man says. The kids won't be expecting her. She'd be the perfect lure. See, Ozzy agrees with me. I don't. Tatiana shakes her head. It's too dangerous, she says. Too many things could go wrong. What could possibly go wrong? Anderson says. She's more powerful than any of them and completely obedient to me, to us, to the movement. We all know as well as I do that she's proven her loyalty again and again. She'd be able to capture them in a matter of minutes. She could be over in an hour and we'd be able to move on with our lives. Anderson locks eyes with me. You wouldn't mind rounding up a few rebels, would you, Juliet? I would be happy to, sir. See? Anderson gestures to me. A sudden alarm blares, the sound so loud it's painful. I'm still rooted in place, so overwhelmed and confused by this sudden flood of dizzying information that I don't even know what to do with myself. But the Supreme Commanders look suddenly terrified. Ozzy, where is Santiago? Tatiana cries. You were last with him, weren't you? Someone check in with Santiago. He's down, Ozzy says, tapping against his temple. He's not responding. Max? Anderson says sharply, but Max is already rushing out the door, Ozzy and Tatiana on his heels.
Go collect your son,
Ibrahim barks at Anderson.
Why don't you go collect your daughter?
Anderson shoots back. Ibrahim's eyes narrow.
I'm taking the girl,
he says quickly.
I'm finishing this job and I'll do it alone if I have to.
Anderson glances from me to Ibrahim.
You're making a mistake,
he says.
She's finally become our asset. Don't let your pride keep you from seeing the answer in front of us. Juliet should be the one tracking down the kids right now. The fact that they won't be anticipating her as an assailant makes them easier targets. It's the most obvious solution. You are out of your mind, Ibrahim shouts. If you think I'm foolish enough to take such a risk, I will not just stand her over to her friends like some common idiot.
Friends? I have friends?
Hey, princess,
someone whispers in my ear.